In this tutorial series, you are going to learn how to use temp controls. In this first video, I'm going to go through some examples of the simple control. This is the most basic and versatile system available. There's quite a few examples of usage, so this is going to be the longest video of the series. At the end of this video, you should get a good idea of what temp controls is all about and how it will completely change how you animate. So stick through and I promise you won't regret it. So let's go over those examples here. So that's I think that's I'm pretty sure that's the most complex tools of all of other tools here, because all of other tools have a very specific thing that they do. Like, it's a very simple thing that they do. For example, mirror, it's gonna mirror. A control pose, copy animation will do just that, copy pose will do just that. The motion trail is just a motion trail, but this one, it's not, we cannot summarize it. It's really hard to summarize because you can do so much with it, so much that it's not very simple. Like this here is a very brief explanation of what you can do with it. So the best way that I found to explain is to give examples, because I don't know. I know some ways to use it. I don't know every single way, and I don't want to say like you need to use it that way. I mean, you can use whatever way you want to use it. I think the thing that it's important to me is to explain the basic, the essence of it, and then you can use it in your own workflow. So the examples, so let me go over this first one here. So create a simple control in world space to fix unwanted noises. So let's, I mentioned before the example on the chest and the horse, but let's say on a walk cycle I have this control here for the knee. If I turn on the motion trail for it, I can see there's some weird noises going on there. For example, between this and this one. And yeah, there's it's doing a little bit of a crazy thing there. But if I open the graph editor for this control, there's no animation at all. Okay, I haven't animated. It's just doing whatever the IK against the lag control up there is doing. Oops. So what I can do here is, if I create a control in world space for it, you can see that it already smoothed it automatically for me. Like, but it's not magic or anything. It's just like, you can see that now it has animation all over the place, because it's not dependent on any controls anymore. If I move this one, it's gonna keep my knee there. If I move the foot, it's not going to move the knee anymore. So it's kind of isolated there. See the difference on this one. And of course, this is one example that you just wanna use it for a temporary thing. So let's say I like it, this, or you can even work on it if you want. If you want to smooth things a little bit more, like you can, there's no harm. Let's say, maybe this frame here, I'm gonna just move it down a little bit so it gives a little bit of an arc. You get the point. Like, and then I can bake it down. But the thing is, if I bake it, there's two ways that you can bake things here. Two modes, bake keys and bake frames. If I bake keys, it's gonna bake the keyframes here, right? If I say bake frames, it's going to bake every single frame. So there's two ways that you can convert this animation back to the rig control and still like maintain the arc that you did. You can either like just move it to bake frames and bake it, and now I have a frame to frame on this one, or you can keep the bake keys and then you can create the keys where you want, just where you like it, the smooth. Okay, so let's say I like it the way it's smoothed on that section here. I can just bake that section. Just so explain what I did here. I used the set smart key now. If you use it on a range, it just bakes everything. So I can just do this, and then I can oops, my key stuck. And then I can bake the keys, and like he baked my section here, but not the other ones. Alright, so next one here. Create simple controls in world space for a case in COG and convert the treadmill walk cycle. Okay, so there's a few ways to actually do this. We can look at an example here as well. You can use the World X form to do this, but I like the way with the temp controls because it's more interactive in a way. Like you can see what you're doing better in the process. So let's see here what I have. So it's walking in place right now. So let's just add some forward motion to this. I'm just gonna do some very poor job here. So I'm gonna delete those keys. Okay, so now he's moving forward. I'm gonna just set this to linear. Move a little bit more just so it doesn't slide as much. Okay, so let's say I like this, but now I want to kill the animation on the master and transfer to the COG and the eye case, or all the controls that are moving the character. So I like the temp controls better because I can create one at a time if I want. So I'm gonna create for the COG first, and then I can check what else it's moving with the master. So the COG is already locked in there, and again, like it has the keys and it's doing everything the same way, but it's in world space right now. So what else here? So 2 feet. So I'm gonna create a control for this one. I'm gonna create one for each, so I can create 2 at the same time. So what else is moving? So The arms are in IK as well, so I'm gonna grab them, create it. It's also good to check the rotations as well. See, like the head, it's still behaving according to that. So I'm gonna create a control for the head as well. So what else? That's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So now I can I know that I can kill the animation of this because it's not going to affect anything anymore. So I'm gonna just delete it. And voila. And then now that I delete it, I can just bake everything. And then the character now is moving forward. So that's what it's doing. So next one, create a simple control for static controls and use time offsetter. Yeah. So let's. Okay, so this one, I have a simple walk cycle. I'm going to just rotate these guys. It's gonna give a better view of what's going on. So this is a simple FK chain, and I'm gonna open the graph editor so we see what's going on. So I don't think there's any animation in this. Yeah, so there's no animation at all. I'm going to create simple controls for them, and I'm going to create in world space. No, wait a second. First, before doing that, I need some keys in this case. So I'm just going to steal from the head. Down. So I'm going to use the share keys button there, just so I have something here. There's no animation, but there's some keys now. So if I create a control in world space for them, let me just I can just reorient them. That's better. Let's reduce the size a little bit. Okay, so now I have those controls driving the FK, and I have animation on them because again, like, they are in world space. So if I move the head, the controls are not going to move anymore. They're independent of each other. Even between one another, they are completely separate now. So if I move the animation as it is, I'm not gonna feel any difference, especially on the keys. Interpolation changed, but it's not very noticeable right now. But if I grab each control here and I delay the curves a little bit, say I grab this one and then I move this over there, it's already going to start like having some kind of offsets. And that's what the time offset stagger does, but without moving the keys. And if you grab, the order of selection is important in this case, so you have to select from the root up to the last one, and then I can just highlight this, and I'm going to apply some offset between them. let's say that amount. Let's see. Oh, I have some offset going on already. Let's try apply on this one, see what I have, what I get, because it doesn't need to be exactly like a chain of things. It could be just a single control. I'm going to delay this one, just that's too much, just a little bit. Give a little bit of a overlap fall through in there. So that's this example. So the next one is create a simple control for a chair and a couple of child animation controls, so you can animate from other pivots. Okay, so let's open this file here. Okay, so let me open the outliner, just make sure that I'm grabbing the right thing here. So let's say I grab this group, and I'm going to create a simple control. So right now just moving everything, and now I can create a child control. I'm gonna use the this Temp Controls panel here, just so it gives a better way to understand what's happening here. So it's the same, you can do pretty much the same options just with the buttons. For example, here I would add a child control, and it's the same button as this one. So I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to say I'm going to just change the shape of this as well. I'm going to shape as a locator, and I'm going to move to the side. Let's say I move it here. But let me do something a little more complex. So I can move, for example, here, and then I can create another child. Oops, sorry. I need to add the pivots instead of moving. Idiot. Okay. So I have this. So now what I have is a chain of control. So this one will move everything. This one will move the two of them, and this one will just move itself. So again, we'll create a new one. I'm going to move it down here, and I will create another one and move it here. So ultimately this one is the one that moves everything. So if I want to animate from this, let me move a little bit more to the side here. So if I want to animate from that corner here, I can just rotate this. So I can, for example, rock it back and forth like this, and then once it hits that key, I can, key another one. And then I can keep animating each one from each pivot. This is one case that you will want the keys baked in between here. So I noticed after I recorded it, the video, that I didn't show you properly what was going on. So what I mean is, if you you need to bake the frames for this case, or just leave the rig in the scene, because as you can see right now, it's pivoting from the corner there as you should. But if I just bake the keys like this, it's going to slide because it's now pivoting. All the frames in between the keys are being pivoted from the center here. So the keys are still okay, but in betweens are not working anymore. So you can either like keys this section here and then bake, and then it's gonna bake it properly, or you can just set to bake frames, but in this case it's gonna bake the whole timeline. It's the same thing. So this example here is very similar to this one, but the idea of this one is that when I was blocking this, I actually didn't use it here because I didn't have this tool at the time, but I could move the master around as much as I wanted while I'm blocking. So as you can see, like the interpolation are all over the place, so I'm not worrying about that when I'm blocking. So I just wanted to move the character to another position easier. So it's much easier if I grab the master and move it here and make my pose there, instead of just having to grab all the IKs and everything. So the idea is it frees you up to use the master to block the character. And once you are done, you're gonna do pretty much the same that you did here. You're just going to delete the animation on the master by creating some temp controls. So for the example, I think it will probably be the same controls here. I know that at least those three, so I'm gonna create it in world space. Oh, sorry, I already have the controls in the scene. Oh yeah, I already have them here. Okay, so I'm just going to turn them on. Let's see what I have is it's one for the hand. Yeah, same thing. The only difference is that the hand was not necessary for this. So I believe now if I move this one, yeah, it's not gonna move anything anymore. So I will just go first frame here. I'm going to zero them and bye bye keys. Stay there. Still moving. There you go. So now master is not moving anymore, and then I can simply bake my controls. And there it is, the animation without the master. Next one. That one is very simple. I mean, most of the rigs has already this feature. So see, like it's already, like the rig already has the features, so it's already doing what I want, which is this isolate thing here. Let's say your rig doesn't have it, or you want to make this same kind of behavior for another control. So I would first create a simple control, but this time I will create an object space, because for now I don't want to change anything, so it's just following the same setup. But now I'm going to open the Temp Controls panel here. I'm going to unlock this, and the orientation, instead of being in world space, is going in object space, going to be world space. So that's the setup that I want. So what's happening now is that it's following the translation, but the rotation is independent of everything. So you can do this kind of thing for shoulders, head is very common to do it, or you know, like if you are animating something very specific, like a fast run, and you want, say you want the chest to follow the up and down of the hips, but not the rotation, you can do this as well. And you know, there's many cases that this kind of thing can be used. Next one is this. This is very simple. It's like it's sort of like putting an object A in B space. So let me open the example here. What's going on here? So right now it's, I think the hands are on the hips space. So the rig already has some spaces built in. So if your rig already has it, you don't need to use the temp controls for it if you don't want. But you can do something more specific, like for example, let's say I want the hand to follow the foot. So the rig doesn't have that space. I'm just gonna move the foot in here. She's not very flexible. Alright, okay, so let's say now from this pose I want to just move the foot, and the hand would just move along with it. So the fastest way to create it, you select the control that you want, the hand in this case, shift select the foot, and create in relative space. Now the setup is there. The other way, let's say you're creating in world space first, and then you can change to a relative space by just having the control that you want to be the relative and clicking here. It's going to do that for you. And let's say I want now to be relative to this one instead. Now it's relative to this. I don't have any animation in this file here, but if I had, I wouldn't lose the poses, as I mentioned. Like, that's a very important thing to keep in mind. So in this case here, what I'm doing here, yeah, one hand is following the head, and the other one's following the hips. And then once I'm done with that setup, let's say just one small section of the animation, she is maybe dancing, and grabbing her foot for a little while, I would just bake that section, that animate with this setup, that section, bake it, and then remove the control. Okay. Next one. Yeah, this is a very good replacement for constraints, regular constraints. So instead of using a regular constraint, you can simply create a control in relative space. And if you watch it up to this point, you already know that you can create a setup without losing your poses. So let's say I want the hand to follow the spear here. It's currently, I don't think it's not following. So what I could do is to create a constraint like this, but there are some disadvantages of doing that. First, like you won't be able to animate this one anymore unless you have planes, which is super confusing. Or if you create a locator to drive this and then parent the locator to this one, but it's very complex to do. So the hand would follow the spear, but you would still have freedom to animate the hand. But with this one, I can simply select the hand, shift select the spear, and create a simple control in relative space. And that's it. So this, now the hand is following this control here. And you can also animate the hand freely because it creates a free control. So it's a simple way to constrain things without using Maya constraints. I mean, it's using constraints under the hood, but you are not the one managing creating them. That one, yeah, you can, when you make something relative to another, you can do it, you can have more than one control to be relative. So this example, this guy. So let's create something there, like the example. So create a sphere. Let's say, I don't know, maybe he's chewing something and you want that to sort of follow a few controls. So I'm going to create a simple control. It doesn't matter the space right now. Like if I create in relative space, it needs something, so it's set automatically to world space for now. So if I press one, this one. So if I open it here, it's in world space at the moment, so I can select the controls that I want. Let's say we'll select those controls around the mouth, and I'm gonna put them in relative space. So now if I move those controls, it distributed the weight. Next, oh yeah, that's the camera space one. This example here is for cases where you have something moving across the screen a lot. So in this this example here, I'm gonna move the truck, and imagine that you have a character here inside the truck that you need to animate. So anytime that I scrub the timeline here, it's going to lose focus on where that is. So one quick thing that you can do in this case is I'm going to duplicate the camera first. So I'm going to create a new perspective. And then I'm going to group by hitting Ctrl G, so it's not inside the group. And now I'm going to create a control for the group. And then now I need to make this control to move along with the truck. So I'm going to select the truck control here. And on my Temp Controls panel, I'm going to make it relative to the camera. And now whenever we scrub the timeline, the truck's going to travel with it. So I can work as if the truck was not even moving. So in this one, I simply created a simple control, and the space of the control was the camera. Yeah, that one. Okay. Okay, so this one, this control. Let's see what happens if I move. Yeah, so see, like the translate Y is in a diagonal, and so are all the other ones. It's in local space. So what I want to do now is to, let's say I want to have an animation and I want to clean that up in relation to the camera. So I'm gonna just move it a little bit. And if I create a control for it in camera space, so I can, if I grab the Y now it's going to, the curves itself is going to obey the camera space. So left to right, up and down with the Y. The Z axis is a little bit more complex to understand. It's not going to move towards the camera. So if I move it here, you see that it goes towards the camera, but it's in, you need to consider like the perspective of the camera as well. So like if there's a point here in the middle and it goes outwards from that point, it's not going to go from each object to go there, because it doesn't work that way. If the object it's more like in the middle of the screen, you'll have that kind of thing. But let's say the object is here, here you can notice better like what I mentioned. So it's kind of going from a point in the middle. But even though it's like very useful for cleaning up a shot where, you know, the character is moving, the camera is moving all over the place, so you can use that kind of thing. Or for example, the camera is following the character walking, for example. So the camera, let's say the camera is pulling back while the character is walking towards it. So if you put the character in camera space, you will have more control of your curves. And you can leave it like that in the shot, or you can just use it for a little while and bake it. The next one here, let me open this shot here. So this example here, I create a control for the master of the character. So in camera space, one important thing here, like if I create like this, my active camera is the perspective, so it's going to create for the perspective. So you can either change that later, or you can just focus first on the one that you want. So now check what happens. So here's my camera that's showing on this side here. If I move it, I move the camera, the character is moving with it. Ignore this elbow here. I will need to, it's probably constrained to a locator in world space somewhere, so I will have to put it in the same space, but I will ignore for now. And you can either move the camera, or you can simply navigate this camera. So if you navigate the camera here, you're kind of, it feels like you're moving the whole set around the character, so you can move it that way. And this is very useful. For example, say you have a like in layout, you have a very large set, say like a forest, for example, and there's a character running through the forest. You don't necessarily know where the character, like the best place that the character is. So you can use this thing to navigate different places on the set and see which one feels better, like very easily. This one, I'm not gonna even bother to open this one. This is like create a locator, but it's, as you can see, like it's much easier to do. I mean, less steps to do it. And then you can use the locator to whatever you want, to align things, to track things, whatever. Oh yeah, the grab release. I'm gonna skip this one for now because I'm gonna make a part of the video that is dedicated to this, because this is a little bit more complex.